Welcome to the Practice Leader Podcast, brought to you by Ascent, a show for medical practice administrators who feel stuck in the daily chaos and want to lead with intention. I'm Zed Williamson, founder and CEO of Physician Growth Accelerator.
And I'm Paul Richards, president of Ascent and director of otolaryngology at the University of Utah School of Medicine. Every week, we explore what high-performing leaders are doing in real time, so you can stop reacting and start leading with purpose, strategy, and results.
Welcome to the Practice Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Zed Williamson, along with Paul Richards, and we are here live at the Ascent Conference in Kansas City, chatting with people as they pass by, vendors, people from practices, lots of information that we're sharing so people can be better leaders within their practice. And today we are talking to Drew Franklin with Albany ENT and Carlo Sanchez with Institute of Balance. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. There's a challenge that exists out in the world of ENT, and that is the recruiting of audiologists. And it sounds like you're pretty passionate about something you're doing at Albany ENT.
Absolutely. I would say that there's an opportunity cost of not having an audiologist to provide diagnostic care. And what we've tried to do is solve for that problem by looking at it from a patient access and a patient journey perspective and looking at the different solutions that are out on the market. Interesting.
So what did you first recognize? How did you know it was negatively impacting you?
Right. I think it starts with by understanding where the patient is in this clinical pathway, being referred for a basic hearing test, and making sure that we had enough resources to be able to deliver on that promise. In New York State, there are restrictions on the use of audiology personnel. So PPOPs, CPOPs, and ototechs are not permitted. So we need a full-fledged audiologist to provide the downstream care. And so that's where we first looked at it. And then we looked at it from a revenue perspective as well. You know, by not having that resource or having the patient have delayed care, what did that mean for the revenue stream as well?
And I'm just curious, from running the practice, were you already tracking metrics to know that something was going off track? Like, how did you actually know that there was a piece missing there?
I think based on the longitude of KPIs and our ability to track revenue by category, by modality and bucket,
Great.
We were able to look at 2023 versus 2024 and realize that, and then on a per provider basis, how we were doing, how we were trending. And then when we had a little bit of an exodus of audiologists, 2 audiologists that left in the same year, that attrition was painful from both a patient experience perspective, but also from a lost revenue perspective.
Yeah, there is what's interesting. So in other businesses, sometimes these things are easier to track. On one of the organizations I'm part of, the Physician Growth Accelerator, when we guide people on how to look at their finances, we actually suggest putting providers as a cost of goods sold because it helps you understand what's your potential capacity. And let's say you're selling a product and you're a retail store and someone kept coming in trying to buy something that you were out of stock of, it would be really obvious that you needed more stock.
Yeah.
And so that's why I kind of dug into that, because there's many people who run practices and they're not necessarily aware of what they're out of stock of.
Yeah, I think it's a great way of thinking about it. The provider as a cost of goods. It never had occurred to me to think about it from that paradigm. Carlo, what do you think about it?
No, I absolutely agree. I think it is. You have to look at it from a cost of goods sold perspective and an opportunity cost. And I mean, there's an opportunity cost not just to not having an audiologist or not being able to hire someone, but also for your existing audiologists. The days that they are, there's going to be PTO, sick days, and at some point, especially nowadays, they are going to churn at some point. So we actually did some analysis to estimate the cost of downtime for a given audiologist, and it comes around to $10,000 per month when you take into consideration sick days, PTOs, leaves, and the potential turnover, right? That's a great reason to look into remote audiology.
I imagine there's some burnout too if you're understaffed and those existing audiologists are feeling the burn and the grind,
That's a great point, Paul. When we saw those 2 audiologists that resigned in the same year, one took an opportunity locally and the other relocated, we were now down significantly in staff. But for the existing staff, going back to your point about burnout, we saw quite a bit of that because it increased the need to do more testing and more care delivery per provider.
When you were first presented the idea of remote audiology, I want you to try to think back to what the cynical part of you might have thought. Like, what are the what ifs that you were worried about that maybe didn't turn into a concern? But at first, what were you concerned about?
So it's interesting because my personal reaction was very favorable, but I would say that the cynical aspect really came from the audiology team. Is this virtual audiologist going to replace us? Are you guys moving towards AI and mid-level providers? And I think the way that we were able to assuage some of those concerns had to do with likening it to the PA or nurse practitioner compared to an otolaryngologist. The virtual audiologist or the audiology assistant is more analogous to a PA to a physician than anything else. And I think when they thought about it from the perspective from that perspective, it became a lot more palatable for them. And they also, from a governance perspective, they looked at it as from a clinical oversight perspective, these folks are ultimately accountable to our director of audiology. And in that sense, delivering the best clinical outcomes first and putting the patient experience first, paramount there was important to us.
What about patient experience? Any pushback or things that you've heard from patients?
Carlo, maybe just touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been very positive from a patient experience. Actually, we started tracking Net Promoter Score, NPS, for our service, and it's north of 90%, which is pretty good for this type of service. It's world class.
Just so the audience, just because I want to make things super clear, if you're not familiar with the Net Promoter Score, imagine it's a simple percentage of how many people would recommend this to someone else. So how many net people would actually promote you to people they care about. So 90% is very high.
Exactly. Yeah, actually, we got a 92 score consistently. And not just that, the patients are very intrigued by the use of technology. They see it very, positively as a way of expanding care that they would otherwise not get on a timely manner. So it's been actually a net positive. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree in terms of the use of technology as an enabler. First of all, we don't do video otoscopy for our brick and mortar audiogram, but with the use of this remote audiologist, we have the combination of a medical assistant or tech that's rooming the patient, doing the video otoscopy, doing the otoacoustic emissions, doing the TIMPs and the reflexes, alongside a real audiologist who happens to just be located somewhere else and is connected to the patient through video. And so I would say that you're still in a traditional booth. And the main difference is that the audiologist, the supervising audiologist, is just not in the room with you. But I think that the patient experience and the patient reaction to both the technology and this video that they're seeing of their own ear, I think actually in some ways can be better than traditional methods.
Yeah, and not waiting weeks and weeks and weeks for the appointment probably helps too.
I think the ability to match physician schedules with audiology schedules is definitely improved with this modality.
And an interesting thing about doing remote audiology versus in-person audiology is going back to this measurement of satisfaction or Net Promoter Score. The fact that you're doing a remote audiology session using technology makes it so much easier to track the satisfaction of your patients, because you do it right in the moment. It's very organic. It's part of the appointment itself.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Drew, do you mind if there's someone listening to this that's a practice administrator, they're curious? Do you mind if they actually reach out to you?
No, I think that would be great. I think talking through what that practice's experience is with their own audiology department. As a member of the Leadership Council of Ascent, I feel it's my fiduciary and personal responsibility to give back to administrators. But importantly, with respect to remote audiology, I'd be happy to talk to anyone about our own experience and see if that's helpful to others as well.
What's the best way for them to reach you?
I think the best way to start out would be through email.
Okay.
Because that's the fastest way. But ultimately, that will probably result in a Teams or Zoom conversation, either with me or somebody from my clinical team to talk about that, depending on whether it's the administrator and they want to understand the business aspect, or if they really want to dig into the nitty gritty of the clinical aspect as well.
That's great. Well, Carlo, Andrew, or Drew, sorry. I appreciate you guys joining us today on the podcast. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Great topic, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And we'll see you next week on the Practice Leader Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Practice Leader Podcast. If you're feeling the weight of challenges in your practice, know this: the problems you're struggling with today don't have to remain problems. There is a path forward, and you're not walking it alone.
Each week, we'll be here with insights, ideas, and real-world conversations to help you move forward from chaos to clarity.
See you next week.